Anyone who's taken the time to argue with a presuppositional apologist has inevitably been asked the following question upon making an argument. By what standard? The method of asking this question has proven itself to be an effective distraction from the point being made by the atheist or skeptic. You see, if asked to perform a meta-analysis on any given belief, whether it be a conclusion or a judgment, the person performing the analysis will inevitably get to a point within their epistemic basis, which is going to be based on axiomatic positions or presuppositions. The presuppositional apologist will then ask how do you know questions until they inevitably get I don't know as an answer. They'll then try to argue that because the atheist doesn't know the answer to the question being asked, they can't really know anything at all, an argument which would only be made by people unaware that knowledge varies in categories and doesn't require certainty. Apologists like to play this game where they make the baseless assertion that they're appealing to the standard of God and then strut about as though this standard is objective, and that by doing this, they have grounds for knowing that they are right and that you are wrong. And I'd be rather surprised if they didn't follow this up by criticizing the atheist for making judgments based on their own standard. This approach is rather intriguing to me. By what standard does the presuppositionalist judge God to decide that he is good? By what standard does the apologist rationalize their belief that they have access to this standard? You see, in order to make judgments of any kind, one must do so based on their own standard. So even if two subjects have access to some standard which is in fact objective, in order to test it, they must do so based on their standards, which would explain the 45,000 plus denominations of Christianity which vehemently disagree with one another on moral as well as rational judgments, often to the point of starting holy wars and killing each other. When I criticize the God of the Bible for commanding the rape of children, or the Prophet Muhammad for sexually abusing an 8-year-old, the response is more often than not to ask me what standard I'm using to arrive at my judgment that this is wrong. Well, I adhere to a pleasure-based moral system and hold that the unnecessary causing of suffering and minimization of well-being is immoral, while the promotion of pleasure pertaining to health, happiness, and overall well-being is moral. But, the apologist replies, how do you know that suffering is a bad thing and that well-being is good? A question which in any other context would be laughed off as stupid and dismissed, but I'm here to answer this epistemic question of my judgment of suffering as being bad and my judgment of pleasure as being good, though it won't be one which I think will satisfy the apologist. Good and bad are words which don't have particular broad definitions, which on the surface sounds problematic, but in practice is actually quite helpful because it allows us to apply these terms to things which seem to fit our linguistic intuition of these words' meanings. The experience of suffering is something that fits our understanding of what we mean when we say bad experience. And the experience of pleasure is something that fits our understanding of what we mean when we say good experience. So, compatibility with linguistic intuition is perhaps the easy answer to the bizarre question, how do you know suffering is bad? I don't have to put forth a syllogistic argument to convey that sexually abusing children, as the God of the Bible commands in the book of Numbers, is wrong. When I call sexual abuse wrong, what I mean is that it causes unnecessary suffering and decreases one's well-being. Any precept who hears this will probably ask, but how do you know that well-being is good? Which again can be answered by pointing out that well-being is compatible with my linguistic intuition of the meaning of the word good. The best way to progress the conversation is to ask the apologist if they think that suffering is bad and that well-being is good. If they can agree, then this can be the criteria used as a shared standard between both of you as interlocutors for the remainder of the discussion. Anyone who can't admit that they agree with you that suffering is bad and that well-being is good is being disingenuous and in my opinion isn't worth wasting time interacting with. But if they're not being disingenuous, if somebody genuinely thinks that suffering is a good thing, or that well-being is a bad thing, then what that person needs is psychiatric help, not a philosophical debate. I'm Shane the Skeptic, and as always, I thank you for taking the time to watch my video. If you'd like to support this channel, you can do so by becoming a patron on patreon.com or making a one-time donation through the means of PayPal. For those of you who enjoy my content and want to show support but can't afford to do so monetarily, please keep in mind that sharing this video and liking it and subscribing are all effective ways of supporting me as well. With all that out of the way, stay safe, and please, if you haven't already got vaccinated, please go do so. I would really like this pandemic to end, but not enough people are getting vaccinated. So if you haven't, get on that.